Most people stop making the majority of the progress after year 1. Now there absolutely is a noob gain phase, but with the training momentum stopping, and a lot of times when people start working out, they don't do everything optimally, resulting in good progress, but not phenomenal progress, which then results in self-limiting beliefs with their training, their ability to put on muscle mass, and even progress with strength. And so this video, I want to show you how I keep an extremely motivated mindset to push myself as hard as I can in training, that can hopefully inspire and motivate you to get back to some sort of aspiration with your lifting game. So let's start discussing this topic with the headspace that is required to make progress. Now when it comes to training, everyone wants to be realistic with their goals and what's achievable so they don't let themselves down. But there's an issue with training. A lot of us have massive genetic disparities, and there's a second part to this problem. A lot of people abuse steroids and say that they're naturals. So you get people who are just genetic freaks or incredibly unblessed with their genetics, and you get liars. So what that does in the long run, it creates bad will in this industry, in which right now in this day and age, like, you just have to assume everyone is on steroids that pops off on social media or has a great physique, because the goodwill of the audience has been used and abused for the last 20-30 years. So in that regard, don't let the typical fitness content pollute your brain, because some people have it easier than others or worse than others, and you gotta really just acknowledge and live through your experiences with what your training is like. It's not about doing the most science-based training style. You just gotta work with what you're given and see how the journey goes. Now that being said, you have to be delusionally optimistic about your progress. That will only help you in this game. Not about looking at everyone and be like, that guy's fake natural, that guy's fake natural, and then looking at yourself and be like, I'm training hard enough. It's not that I can't work harder, it's more so that I just am not taking steroids, right? No, don't do that. A lot of people are drinking that copium, sipping on that copium like it's Lil Wayne's favorite double cup. Instead, give it your best shot. Everyone can always work harder, whether you're talking about your training style, whether you're talking about your nutrition, your recovery. A lot of people don't just wake up strong or wake up with a good body, which is why a lot of people get this respect for being super muscular or fit. You can't lie, you can't create copium, and you can't bullshit the work. Even if you have really good genetics, you still got to put in the work. You're not gonna have a crazy physique without working out. And in fact, if you don't even have the best genetics, you can still show that you worked hard, even if your physique doesn't look that much outstanding compared to someone that just started working out with great genetics, with the amount of progression you made from your starting point. That should be your biggest motivation, not looking at someone that has great genetics, like, I want to look like that guy. It should be reflecting where you started off and having this ideology that you could get way bigger and dwarf your old self just by fixing certain things with your training, nutrition, and recovery. Which comes to our next point, that a lot of us are thinking that we are covering the basics better than we actually are, and overvaluing the efforts that we're putting into basic things like getting enough sleep, eating healthy enough, or training hard enough for that matter. And it really comes from comparing our standards to what other people are doing around us to reassure that we're following the quote-unquote right path, which is why you can't ask someone that has great genetics but doesn't really know what's going on in the gym, how do they get so big, because it came so easy to them, and their advice doesn't really apply to you, because if you were to compare from a work ethic level and a strategy level, maybe they didn't have to go as in depth to get half the results as that person did with lesser genetics in the lifting game, right? So in basic translation, that guy's jacked, he only eats 2 meals a day. I'm gonna follow that because he looks like that. I want to be like this guy. And while it could work, I don't think it's the best way to go about it, because you have to look at everyone's independent genetics as its own case study and to see what worked for you and what's not working anymore. If it's not giving you results and you're making more changes, then you might be working harder in the wrong direction, and that's why I take a pause and just reassess everything. For example, I'm always experimenting with different ways to get better so I could keep progressing as a natural lifter. For example, I made a YouTube short talking about how I'm calorie cycling for my bulk, and a lot of people didn't seem to give a shit about it because, to be honest, it's very niche and it doesn't really apply for most people who are just getting into the gym, and it might be an overcomplication resulting in them spending more efforts where it doesn't matter. But someone year 10 like myself, it absolutely does matter because I already mastered the other basics. But even so, even if you think you mastered something, there's always room to improve. Now the last thing I want to cover is that you have to have some goal in your training. PR goal, rep goal, Body composition goal, there has to be something to look forward towards within the next couple weeks. This is going to be your short-term goal that's going to make up for the long-term goal. You want to be clear and intentional with these goals, otherwise your training is just going to be a mess. You're going to be floating and you're not going to know when to push hard for training PRs and when to take the foot off the gas pedal. And I get it, if life is chaotic outside the gym, you got to prioritize what's going to give you the most return in life in general, not just the gym of course. But if you're trying to lock in, it's important to know how to periodize your training, make goals for yourself, progress, and ultimately keep yourself to a standard. I hope you like this video, like, subscribe, and comment below. And I just want to say thank you to everyone that used my support code for Transparent Labs and Young LA. Peace.